Yeah, hello. So you are welcome to this class, which is a continuation of while loops. So if you look at my screen here, I have a set of questions we are going to be working on. There are two of them, so we'll take them one after the other. Okay. So basically, the first one says develop a class averaging program that processes grades for an arbitrary number of students each time it's run. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so basically it's like an extension of uh the previous exercise we did before, where we had 10 students. So but in this case, you don't know the number of students. The number of students could be three, it could be 100, it could be 50, it could be a million. So but regardless of the number, the task ahead is to calculate the average. Okay, so we'll get started with that. So, like I had said before, I'm going to be using methods. So, I would just say uh, public void calculate average, calculate average, so, calculate average. Okay, so yeah, okay. So, I haven't understood this question. So basically, I'll just put down some comments to take note of what we need to do. So basically, I can tell that a I need a variable. Okay, I need a variable to store total score. Okay, and it will be initialized to zero. That will be initialized to zero. Okay. Apart from that, I also need a grade counter. Okay, as I insert each grade, I need to also maintain the number of grades that have been entered. So in this case, I also need a grade counter. So in the first instance, it's also going to be at zero. Okay. So and of course, I need that scanner to insert values from the keyboard. Apart from that, I also would need. Okay, I'm going to be using something called a sentinel value. Okay, so that sentinel value is like a condition that as long as someone does not enter a particular value, continue to run this program. So I would use a sentinel value. Okay, or I call it a flag value. Okay, flag value. Also, so let me get started now. So let me create a scanner, an object of scanner class equals new scanner. It will be system.in. Okay, so in this case, um, okay, so then the next thing is to create these variables here. So there will be type int total score. So basically, total score, what total score will do here is that each score that is entered will be added up to the next one. So you enter the first one, then it's added to the current score of total score, which is zero, right? Then the next one is you enter the next one, then the current value of total score will be added. So total score, let me initialize it to zero. Then grade means grade counter would also be initialized to zero. Okay, and then my flag value, I'll say int flag value. So let me take equals minus one. Okay, so you see how I'm going to make use of this. Okay, so yeah, so having set up the necessary variables, so I think the next thing to do is I would need to prompt the user to enter a value. So to do that, I would just the usual way that we've been doing. Okay, so I'll prompt him enter a grade or -1 to quit. So ideally this it means that this flag value is just going to be used to quit the loop. So it is very important that your the condition to quit the while loop is clear, is unambiguous, so that you don't run into an infinite loop. Okay, so then the next thing would be, yeah, we need a grade, the grades that will be entered. Okay, so then the int grade will now be whatever the user enters, next int. Okay, then so I think at this point that's where I need my while loop. So uh while grade not equals flag value, meaning while grade is not equals -1, as long as you have not entered -1. So continue to execute the following instructions. So the instructions to execute are this. The first one is you need to update the total score, right? So will be equal to total score plus grade. Okay, so with every iteration, you are going to be entering a grade, right? So that grade should be added to total score. So at the first iteration, total score is 0, right? Then it means whatever score you had here, you add it to 0. So if you enter 40, for example, so it will be 0 plus 40, right? Then the current score at this point will now be 40 to be assigned to you. Okay, then you enter another value, right, for grade. If you enter 60, for example, so 60 will now be added to this current score, which is 40, right? Then 40 plus 60, then you have a new value, an updated value for total score. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to update inside this while loop. Another thing we need to update is the grade counter. Okay, so the grade counter will just be grade counter equals grade counter plus plus 1. Okay, so the grade counter at this point is 0, right? So once you enter one grade, it means one grade has been entered. So you have to increment this by 1. So that's what you have done. So it's 0 plus 1. So the current value of grade counter will be 1, right? Then when you enter the next value, then it will now be 1 plus 1, which is 2, right? Then another it will be 3 plus 1. So we'll be able to do this. So while this is ongoing, as long as you've not entered -1, then you want to prompt the user again to still do this. So you do this again. I want to send prompt the user again for an instruction, right? So once that is done again, so whatever you enter, I want to put it inside this. Okay, yeah. So basically, these are the conditions I want to continue to run to repeat inside that while loop. So once this is done, so I think the next thing would now be, I think I'm good enough to calculate the average. So um, what I would do now at this point is if grade counter, right? How to calculate the average, not equals 0. Meaning, what this condition here means is that as long as you have entered at least one grade, you should be able to calculate the average. So, but once you've not entered the grade, then there's nothing you can do. Okay. So in this case, yeah, I forgot to create an average variable here. So I think I need that. So at this point, if the grade is not that, then I'll just say average equals total score, right, divided by grade counter. Okay, so okay, so in this case, I will just do input total uh, grades. Okay, let me refine this. I'll just say total of the yeah, I want to do grade counter. Okay, and then grades dot grades. Uh, So yeah, I'm concatenating strings. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to do is total of the so the number of grades. Let's say I enter 5 grades. So total of the 5 grades entered is the total score. So basically that's the message I'm trying to print out here. Then on that message I would like to also print out is this. This time I want to get the class average is percentage point 2F. I want to format the average to just two significant figures after the decimal point. So yeah, then I want a new line after that. Then in this line I'll just add the average. So then I would add an else. Let's just do this. No, no grades were entered. So I'm going to run this now. I'm going to run this and see how it works. So how do I run that? I did a main method as usual. Okay. So once this is done, then the next thing is to create an object of this class. Okay. So I'll just say loop exercises. I'll call it test because new exercises. So I'll just say test dot calculate average. That's all. So let's run this now and see how it works. Type so it's okay. So let me enter 80. Another grade, right? 79, 50. Okay, so I want to quit now. Just enter -1. Okay, so you see that gives me the total of the three grades entered is 209, right? So it's able to count this, and then class average is 69. So yeah, basically we've been able to complete this particular exercise. So we can run it for further example. So let's look at this other condition here. So if you can look at it, I said grade counter not equal 0, right? So what if I didn't enter any grade? At the first prompt, I just entered -1. Let's see how it works at that point. So I just enter -1 from this point. So it tells me no grades were entered. Simple as that. So yeah, this is another example that further demonstrates the power of while loops. So we'll be moving straight to the second example. So let's go through it. It says it's quite lengthy, but I think I summarized what we actually need to do here. So it says a college offers a course that prepares students for the state licensing exam for real estate brokers. Last year, 10 of the students who completed this course took the exam. So we know that there are 10 students, right? From here, 10 students. So the college wants to know how well the students did on the exam. So you've been asked to write a program to summarize the results. So basically, your task is to summarize the results of the students. You'll be given a list of those 10 students, okay? Next to each name is written a 1 if the student passed, or a 2 if the student failed. So here we are going to be needing inputs, 1 or 2, right? So 1 if the student passed, 2 if the student did not pass. So it says input each test result. So you have to input every test result, meaning you are going to input 10 test results 10 times, right? Then it says enter result on the screen each time the program requests the next result. So this you are going to ensure that your test results are just 10. So once they are 10, you should exit the loop. Then count the number of test results of each type. So you are going to count the test results that are 1. You are going to count the test results that are 2. Okay. Then the next one would be display a summary of test results summarizing the number of students who pass and number of those. So while you are maintaining the number of passes and fails, so you also want to print out the number of those who pass. So if more than 8 students passed, it says print to the bonus. So I really like this question. It tests us on while loops and as well as if statements. So basically, we are going to yeah. So let's get started. So I'll create another method for that. Public void uh, summarize results. Okay. Yeah. So then, so as usual, comments to indicate what I need to do. So in this case, I'm going to, in this case, what I'm going to do is initialize, okay, create variable for parties, for parties count, and initialize to zero, and initialize to zero. Okay. So after that, I also need to do the same for fields. Create variable for field count, initialize to zero as well. Okay. Then student counter, create student counter, initialize to one. So since you already know there are 10 students, by default there will always be one student, right? So and I will initialize this to one, and then the next will now be to input the 10 results, input the 10 results. Okay. So okay, let's get started here. Okay, so the first thing I need is scanner. But don't forget that I cannot use this scanner. I can't use this scanner variable in that method because this variable here is only limited to this. Its scope is limited to this method. So outside that method, I can't use it. So I'll just say scanner input in this case equals new scanner. Then the source is system.in, which is my keyboard. Okay. And the next thing I'll do is passes count equals zero. That's initializing the passes count to zero. Means fail count also initialize to zero. And student count also initialize to one. Okay. So I think this is where, so I'll say while student count, okay, less than or equal to 10. So then the conditions I need to repeat, right? So what some of the things I need to repeat, this. Enter the results. Okay. To make it clear, I could just say one for pass, two for fail. Just for clarification. Okay. So in this case, I would just say I need another for my results. Okay. So I'll just come here and say results plus int is rather dot next int. Okay, so whatever you enter, I'm going to store it inside this results variable. So at this point, I'll just say if result equals one, right? It means I need to increase the passes count. I'll just say passes count plus equals passes count plus one. So I increment by one. Okay. Yep. So if not, else the other option is I'll say fail count equals fail count plus one. Okay. So this is done. So regardless of whether this another thing I need to implement is student count equals student count plus one. So you see that at this point I am free to uh yeah So why do I have to bring student count out of this? The idea is that whether you pass or you fail, as long as your result is entered, right? So the student count has to increase. So that is done outside the if and else block. Okay. So I think that we are done. So after the whole result is terminated, right? Okay. So I mean, like I said, we need to summarize the results. So in this case, I could just say search number of parties. Okay. I'll just do parties count. Then I want to check if those who fail, number of fails, let's say plus fail count. Um, then so don't forget we are told that if the passes count is greater than 8, right? So we should also print out this bonus the instructor. So yeah. So I think this is it. So I think the next thing is now to use or to invoke this method. And to do that, I'll just do this. I will call test dot summarize results. Okay. So what is so I would like to comment this out so that I don't run this instruction again. Okay. So I just want to run test summarize results. So let's go. So it says enter a results. One for pass, two for fail. So we are entering 10. So let's go. Let's start with one. Yeah, okay. So then the next one, let's call this a two. Next one, let's call it a one. Let's one call it a two. Let's one call it a one. One, one, one. Let's see. One. So good. So it tells us number of passes 8, number of fails 2. So since the number of passes are not greater than 8, it's exactly 8. There is no need to print out bonus with the instructor. So yep. So I think at this point we are good to go. So however, there is something that I feel we can change in our counter. So if you look at this statement here, I think it can be shorter. We can make them they are actually a bit too long. This and then I think I did the same thing here. Okay, so I'll just quickly create a method to demonstrate something here. So they are like they are compound operators. So let me say public void compound operators. Okay. So so let's say we have a a x variable that is 5, right? Okay. So what I've been doing so far, whenever I want to increment these values or update their values, so I've been doing something like let's x equals x plus 1. Okay. So this particular statement here, okay, it can be written as x plus equals 1. Okay. Uh, yeah, so it can be written this way, or it can be written x plus plus. So this will just increment x by 1. Okay, so I would like to go back in there and then make some changes to this. I want to refactor this code here. So here now I can see that there's some repetition. So I will just change this to total score plus equals grade. Okay. Oh, sorry, let me comment that out so that we can continue to compare. So I'll call it so I'll just say total score plus equals grade. Okay, so I've been able to shorten this. So I would like to do same to this as well. So I'll just say grade counter plus equals 1 block. Alternatively, I could just build counter plot plot. That would also work. This basically to just increment by one. So yeah, okay, I think that's that for this method. So summarize results also needs that. Okay, so I would just want to change this. I will change this to passes count plot plot. I would want to change this. I'll just say fail count plot plot. Students, I'll just delete and say students count plot plot. Okay, so you could also read more about compound operators. They are also a very important part of programming. So, however, I think in our next class, I'm also going to dive into it as we make a return into object-oriented programming concepts. So, yeah, I think, yeah, so I would call this a day. If there are any questions, feel free to drop them here. So, see you again in the next recording. Bye for now.